This 42-inch 4K OLED beast is the 42M2N8900 from Philips sub-brand Evnia. This monitor is packed with features, including their signature Ambi glow lighting technology, a 138Hz refresh rate, a built-in KVM with USB-C power delivery up to 90 watts, and a 3-year warranty, including coverage for burn-in. We also have support for 10-bit color output, HDR10 with a peak brightness of 450 nits, and FreeSync Premium. Not to mention, this is the cheapest 42-inch OLED monitor you can purchase right now. Emphasis on the word monitor there. This all sounds fantastic, right? But for £1,100, you'd absolutely hope so. And in a world of 32-inch, 240Hz, QD OLED and OLED monitors, there is serious competition for your desk space. Now that is what I would have said if Philips didn't drop this to £900 in the time it took me to edit this video. But before we discuss what other options are available, let's examine what is inside the box of the 42M2N8900. Now the version I have here is a review sample provided by Philips, so I'm not entirely sure if a few packaging materials were missing. Unfortunately, the headphone hanger on the rear of the stand was broken, but I mean, who's actually putting their headphones behind their monitor anyway? If you are, just stop, just put them in a drawer or on a hook that's just easy to reach, not behind your monitor, especially one that's this big. That's just ridiculous. We've got a lot of accessories though. Included is a USB upstream cable, a USB 4 Gen 2 USB-C cable, a HDMI cable, a power cable, and apparently a DisplayPort cable too, though I actually ended up with 2 HDMI cables. So I think we'll assume this is just a review unit kind of problem. We also get a bracket in the box if you want to go down the route of VESA mounting this thing, some screws, a cute little screwdriver, as well as the remote and some AA batteries. As far as I/O is concerned though, the 42M2N8900 is absolutely stacked. You get 2 HDMI 2.1 ports, a DisplayPort 1.4 port, a USB-C port for data, display and power. You get a USB upstream port for 4 Type A ports, 2 of which are actually capable of fast charging your devices, plus an audio out jack. There is literally nothing else you could ask for. This thing is pretty much ideal for an all-in-one solution for work, convenience, and gaming. Simply connect your keyboard, mouse, maybe a USB drive or headset to the display, then just connect your laptop with a USB-C cable and your PC with the USB upstream cable. Then you can use one set of peripherals for both. You can also make use of picture-by-picture or picture-in-picture modes to view both sources at the same time. Potentially helpful for streaming, but most likely beneficial for working. One minor thing I did notice was that the keyboard wouldn't switch from the PC to the laptop until I turned the PC off, but the mouse did work when both machines were turned on, so I guess that's a little weird. Another thing worth mentioning is that the display has the power supply built inside, so you don't have some giant power brick just hanging out the back of the display that you need to cable manage somehow. It just uses a standard 3-pin connector. Then, just above the power cable is the physical joystick and switch for navigating sources, menus, etc. Though if I'm honest, just using the remote is so much more natural, but it's good to have a backup option, I guess, if you lose this thing or it runs out of battery. As far as overall aesthetics go, I really like what Philips have done here. It's a white stand, silver arm, and completely white rear. So color-wise, it won't just blend into every setup, but then again, what 42-inch monitor casually blends into any setup? The biggest problem though is that this stand is going to take up 35 centimeters of your desk. So unless you hate your neck, you'll be wanting to pair this thing with a very deep desk. Another slight ergonomic issue is that from the rear of the stand, its absolute furthest point away from the actual front of the display is 23 centimeters. So if you push this monitor all the way against your wall, it's still actually quite far away from the wall. And again, you kind of feel yourself moving further and further away to try and get everything within your peripheral vision. Again, if you've got a bigger desk, this really shouldn't be much of an issue. A 42-inch TV in your living room probably seems pretty small compared to a lot of TVs available today. But when you're sat probably less than half a meter away from the screen, all of a sudden it seems pretty big. Now, depending on your use case, it absolutely could be. But ironically, this gaming monitor feels a little too big to be a monitor. A couple of years ago, I reviewed the S55U from Gigabyte, a 55-inch monitor. Now that felt more like a TV replacement with some nice monitor features. It ran Android for using smart apps, and at 55 inches, you know what you're getting yourself into. But I think a 42-inch monitor is deceiving. Now these physical issues aren't exactly exclusive to the 42M2N8900, it's just something that I thought I should probably get across. Like I mentioned earlier, if possible, I'd probably recommend that you maybe try and VESA mount this thing to give you as much maximum distance between you and the display as you physically can, if you plan on using this as a general day-to-day monitor for just computing tasks. Ideally, you'd want a low profile mount, as this OLED display is actually pretty chunky and the metal bracket used for mounting sticks out a couple of inches too. Though I guess the upside of using the stand is that it does offer 120mm of height adjustment, plus or minus 20 degrees of swivel, and -5/15 degrees of tilt. Ideally, you want your desk to be at least 80 to 90 centimeters to properly make use of the stand and have it spaced further enough away from you. Probably one of the main reasons for pushing this display further away from you and physically closer to the wall would be to better highlight one of the standout features of the Philips Evnia monitors, and that's their Ambi Glow technology, which I have since learned is nothing like the Ambi Light technology that they use in their TVs. I've actually owned a Philips OLED TV since 2018, and it has the Ambi Light technology built in. It was one of the features which kind of drew me towards the Philips display in the first place over the likes of maybe a competing LG at the time. And in the last 6 years or so, I've left it turned on every day since that time. It adds a lot of natural ambient bias lighting to the room, whether you have it to reacting to what's on the display or not. Ambi Glow, on the other hand, well, it's in the name. It's a slight glow behind the monitor, opposed to an actual light. I'll be honest, I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff, and Ambi Glow, it ain't it, chief. If you look around the settings, there is actually a few modes and effects, like audio reactive, single color mode, or follow audio. I tried all of them on the brightest mode, and they're all pretty dim. A solid blue color is easily the brightest, but the reactive ones I barely noticed if it was even on or not. Even with all the lights in the studio just completely turned off, it's a little bit it's just very underwhelming. If you are considering this display over another because of the Ambi Glow tech, just save your money and just stick an LED strip on the back yourself. Trust me. Now, the actual important part. What is it like to game on a 42-inch 10-bit 4K OLED display with HDR enabled? Well, if I'm completely honest, it's captivating. I loaded up an SDR game with Mana Lords, and before I knew it, I'd lost 4 hours of my life. That's partly because I'm a sucker for those kind of games, but also I felt so immersed. The landscape looked great, the details on the buildings looked so sharp, and I had a really great evening. Switching over to an FPS game with Halo Infinite, it felt really good. Those instant response times you get with OLED displays, and you won't see any sign of ghosting whatsoever. I did play with a keyboard and mouse, but I feel like this sort of display is definitely designed for kicking back in your chair with a controller and just having a good time. I'll also give a little shout out to the included rear firing speakers. They're only 10 watts each, but are more than adequate for watching videos and gaming. Obviously, a headset or dedicated speakers would give you more of an advantage, and probably just sound better, but I'd always prefer to have built-in speakers and not use them than not have any speakers at all. I'll give you guys a quick little test so you know what I'm talking about.
Spike grenades acquired.
The 42M2N8900 does use a matte display, so if you're a glossy lover like me personally, then you feel like you'll be missing out on some of that extra pop that you do get with a glossy panel. However, if you can't accommodate a glossy panel or just prefer a matte display as they're much more usable in brighter rooms, this is still a night and day difference compared to an IPS panel, regardless of the gloss bonus or not. Not to mention, with an OLED display, you get incredible color accuracy out of the box and much better contrast compared to an IPS or VA. Unfortunately, there is no uniform brightness mode within the settings menu, so as you adjust bright white objects on the screen, it will reduce the overall brightness. Some people find that an absolute deal breaker or really distracting, so that's a decision you'll have to make yourself. The other thing you'll have to be wary of is the chance of burn-in. As with any OLED panel, especially if you're using it for a long period of time and leaving static objects in one position, like a menu in Microsoft Word or lines from Excel, you do need to be careful when working with OLED panels for day-to-day tasks. But fortunately, Philips have added in multiple options within the settings menu to help mitigate the likelihood of burn-in if you make use of all of them. I'm pretty sure that's also a requirement to be eligible for the warranty, so read through that before you actually make your final purchase. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like this is much more suited to kicking back with a controller. So I connected up my PS5 and we have ticked absolutely every box for the perfect PS5 monitor. Adaptive sync, 120Hz, HDR, all ready to go. Then firing up some Spider-Man and Horizon, they both looked absolutely stunning. The HDR gameplay absolutely popped on both games, and I did find myself getting pretty distracted and drawn back into Horizon Forbidden West for just over an hour or so. This is probably where the 42M2N8900 really shines. It's not just a gaming monitor for your PC. It's a beautiful display for all of your devices. Whether you're playing on console or PC, you're going to have absolutely stunning visuals and just find yourself getting immersed in the world you're exploring. Maybe you don't play FPS games on your PC and you play Call of Duty or Fortnite with your friends on your console, but you love a strategy game or an MMORPG on your PC. To really get the most out of this size and form factor, I feel like you need to be making the best of both worlds, relaxing with the controller and taking in the scenery, but also taking advantage of those instant greater gray response times to get plenty of kills in games. When it comes to other options though, there's not a lot out there. Besides this display I have here and the ROG Swift PG42UQ, these are the only 42-inch OLED monitors that I can see available for purchase today in May 2024. The ASUS ROG equivalent is currently £200 more than this Philips Evnia model, around £1,350, whereas a similarly sized TV like the LG G3 is less than £900. So this is Editor Carl. I am quickly jumping in and stopping past Carl because, well, over the weekend, Philips decided to drop the price of this 42M2N8900 from around about $1,100 to $1,150 to $899. So when you're reviewing a product and you're basing your opinions on something, and then the price drops by £250, it can have a serious impact on your sort of final thoughts. But in comparison to the ROG version, this seems a lot more tempting and a lot more reasonable. Compared to a TV, it's now pretty much on par for price. So for you, it's all about deciding whether you want a monitor or a TV for your day-to-day tasks. And you get those sort of day-to-day issues with using a TV as a monitor, like not being able to wake up the monitor by using the mouse, or not being able to take advantage of the KVM feature that you might really appreciate on something like this. But I suppose realistically, the most important thing now is the fact that it is only £900 compared to $1,100 or $1,150. That is a serious discount. Whether this discount lasts, I have no idea. I'll hold my hands up. I've got no idea how long this discount will last. But I had a look online, saw the price had dropped £250, and I can't just post this video without letting you guys know that. You obviously already saw the mention I gave at the beginning of the video, but I just had to give a bit more of a justification. But I think that should be enough. Back to past Carl to sort of wrap up the video, regardless of the price. If you're considering buying an OLED or QD OLED monitor right now, there's so many options, which is fantastic, but also makes recommendations extremely difficult. Because personally, I'd opt for a 1440p ultra-wide display, as you'll need a less powerful, less expensive graphics card to achieve those refresh rates and that resolution, as well as it just being more practical for everyday use. And also still looking pretty good for gaming. But then again, they're not the most console friendly, as neither the Xbox or PS5 support that aspect ratio, as well as the issues with text fringing that's a bit more apparent with 1440p displays. If you've got the power to drive a 4K monitor at over 120 FPS in your games, and you want to spend around £1,000 on a display, there is just a lot of options right now. As I mentioned at the beginning, 32-inch 4K OLED and QD OLED monitors are now yours to purchase, and they're just so much more practical to use comfortably every single day. Not to mention they're on newer second generation technology, which is just superior to what we have here. But if you want big, you want OLED, and you want a matte display, and you want your monitor to be a monitor, not a TV, then the Philips Evnia 42M2N8900 is a beautiful option with a sprinkling of ambient LED lighting, with a 3-year warranty and burn-in protection. All of my complaints have been very nitpicky, and I've been highly critical over minor things because the actual display is pretty beautiful. But I would encourage you to make sure you'll be making proper use of this as a 42-inch monitor and not just an overpriced 42-inch TV. Anyway guys, that brings us to the end of the video. What do you guys think? Is the Philips Evnia 42M2N8900 the perfect 42-inch OLED monitor? Or would you prefer to purchase a TV that's similarly priced and similarly sized instead? If you'd like me to check out any other monitors, please leave your suggestions in the comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to click that like button, and if my face hasn't offended you, don't forget to get subscribed. If you're interested in checking out this display or any extras I may have mentioned, make sure to check the description for my affiliate links. I apologize that I've not really got any proper response time data, but I have ordered an OSRTT from fellow YouTuber TechTeamGB. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some proper data in the future on upcoming monitors. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Cheers.